and you are tuned into the Ashraf.
Right, so we'll be talking to Rihanna Musaji later on as part of the feature that we call Champion Spotting because of the work that she's done in uplifting the Slovo Park community. We'll be chatting to Mushfika Buerta, not just about the economy, which is in a bit of a problem, again with the interest rates rising yesterday, but about a fascinating, Ramadan Mubarak greeting delivered to her by Dan Moyani on air on ENC a few days ago. And there's lots to come out of that. So looking forward to that conversation, right? Let's, however, now get to the feature where we look at Imams of South Africa. Our guest today is the Imam Hafiz Yahya Jantjie, who's the Imam at the Emdeni Muslim Association, also Madressah teacher. So, Imam Yahya, appreciate your time. Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And
Garda, how are
still,
you?
okay. I'm very good. It's still time to say Ramadan Mubarak. What, 7, 8 days now into the month of Ramadan? I trust it's been going well for you so far, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. All
Thank you.
Allah's bounties.
Alhamdulillah. Now, of course, we're talking to you about, because of your position as a leader, community leader, Imam, in particular at the Emdeni Mosque in Soweto. Let's talk about your role. I mean, what is it that we know what Imams normally do, but what do you do?
Yes, apart from Imamat role, we have played a very significant role in dawah, in shaping people's lives and transferring the message of Islam and making and assuring that the Islam is visible in the townships. Alhamdulillah.
Mm-hmm. And how, when did you end up becoming the Imam at Emdeni? I mean, just to take us through that journey. How did you get there?
I've been an Imam since the year 2000. I embraced Islam in 1993, and I went to Mia's farm as my primary Waterfall Islamic Institute as my primary Islamic education, and I picked interest in Hifz. I went to Darul Zakaria, and I left Darul Zakaria in 1999, and I ended up an Imam because I saw the gap and the vacancy in playing the role of leadership in Soweto.
And you've been the Imam there since the turn of the century, that means, effectively.
Yes.
Like it's almost 20 years, yeah.
Yes, I've been the Imam since that time. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right about the role of the Imam. And, we had a chat with a few other Imams the other day that if the mosque is at the very center of Muslim society, then it is very important that we actually have Imams who are leaders, who bolster, who take a central role in the running of the mosque, as opposed to Imams being on the outside. You need to, the mosque has to be central, and you need to be central to the mosque. Is that what you find as well? I mean, that your time, your contribution, therefore, is almost total because of the work that you do there?
Yes, as an Imam, I find it very important that at least the Imam should resonate to the people of the community. And of course, the mosque itself, it becomes da'wah, like Allah puts it. It invites people. And however, I feel as Imams, we should maybe advance where we create more working relations with influential people in the communities, like your teachers, your businessmen, your counselors, and all the high-profile people in the community. Islam should be made visible to them.
So a typical day for you then is what?
A typical
day in the life of Hafiz Yahya Jantjie. What's your typical day like?
It's Okay, now I have. I'm not only doing imamat as a role. I'm also doing business. So I get up every morning with a very compressed or pressurizing schedule where I have to do deliveries of the bread that I'm baking, get it on time to clients, which has so much of pressure. And this is because maybe as imams, we want to make an additional income as opposed to what we are getting from our organizations. So to make ends meet, basically, because the salaries that we get from organizations can be so called labeled frustrating salaries. So
Yeah. No.
it's deliveries, and then it's dawah, where you have to transfer the message of Islam to the community. Then
Mm.
it's ensuring that your own family gets proper Islamic talim or teaching and teaching children in the madrasa and so forth.
Well, I think what you're saying makes sense. Let's then talk about the role of of the Naledi Mosque itself, Emdeni Mosque, sorry,
Many
Emdeni Mosque.
mosques, yes.
Let's get the you know, you made the point from the beginning that you need to ensure that Islam's visibility is present in Soweto, right? Um,
Yes.
have you
And
succeeded at
felt.
that? And yeah,
It must
and
be
felt right?
present and
Yeah.
felt, yes.
So tell us more. Is it present? Is it felt? How so?
Yes, Islam it's growing in the townships. Um, Back in the days when I became a Muslim, um, there were so much of discrimination when one would wear a kurta or go to the masjid. He will be labeled going to an Indian church and so forth. But now people have come in terms with Muslims. They have got used to the fact that Islam it's part of their community and part of them, and their own children became Muslims and their own families became Muslims in their process. So the presence of Islam is highly felt in the community, and the stigma is changing. The labeling is also changing, and people are very welcoming towards Islam. And Muslims themselves are now taking the ownership of creating their own identity.
Yeah, I think that's very important. How, also I think a community, the impact of a community is felt when that community is able to solve problems in the broader community. Has the Muslim community of, say, Emdeni in particular been able to solve societal problems in Emdeni, in Soweto?
Yes, Muslims are part of the societal problems. Um, I remember, and back in the days when children got into the influence of drugs, parents would come to us as imams to intervene and see how can their children be rehabilitated. And when a child is mischievous at home, you'd find parents also coming to Muslims that please come and speak to my child. This is only because they have seen a discipline, and they've seen a reliable Muslim community, that these are people we can take our problems to. And of course, um, the aid of Muslims, there would be people coming to Muslims and say, look, I don't have food at home, and so forth. And Muslims always have got a giving hand.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, Alhamdulillah. And do you get a sense? I mean, it's interesting you made the point about the stigma, and Islam is like, these are part of of Indian faith. I mean, as we know, it's the dominant faith on the African continent, and maybe the changes and the influx of people from Ethiopia and Somalia and others have, I think, maybe changed that perception completely, right? Um, but do you get a lot of people now who are not Muslim asking people like yourself lots of questions about Islam, and also being amazingly surprised at how the Islamic faith reveres, Jesus, Nabi Isa, and Mary, and Maryam, and the importance of those two figures in the lives of Muslims.
Yes, we do come across it a lot, where people have got misconceptions about Islam. But Alhamdulillah, now with the influence of YouTube and all these media stations, people are starting to get direct answers from Islam, and especially influential people like your Muhammad Ali's, when they watch and they see these people are also Muslim, it changes the stigma. However, we have also in the past studied a Bible in order to do comparison and try to direct our people towards the correct beliefs. So the question of Jesus and being the Lord or so forth is always um, addressed. And at funerals, we would attend even non-Muslim funerals to have their platform to at least address that misconcept about Jesus. And you find people welcoming it with open arms and
Okay, quite
appreciating.
fascinating. Yeah. Let's end with your own journey. I mean, you said that you embraced Islam, I think, before the end of the in the 90s. What happened to you, very briefly?
Oh, my brother Zulkif became a Muslim. He was in the PAC movement. So um, I suspect that the cadres in the PAC movement were very influential, and they invited him to Islam. And I was a staunch Roman Catholic member at that time. And when he came back, he then told me that, look, I would love you to follow this path of Islam. And he started telling me what Islam is. I was very against it at the inception. And when he performed Salah, I remember I would put up the music because my parents' place at the time was also a Shibin, you know. So when he would go in his own corner in the room and perform Salah, and I would play music because I just didn't um, like the message he was bringing. But slowly, my heart got softened. He influenced me to go to the mosque with him one day, and I listened to the talks in the mosque, and immediately I said I want to become a Muslim. And the first thing that influenced me is that I think in the mosque there was a tabligh jamaat in that mosque. So when I looked at these people's robes that they were wearing, their attire and their beards, I saw something that looked like Jesus, from
Mm,
of
yeah,
course, the movies. So I decided to become a Muslim then, and I was asked, "What is my name?" I said, "My name is John." So one of the Tablighi brothers said, "Okay, John is Yahya in Arabic." So then I was named Yahya, and then I became
what
Yahya, and
what
popularly known as Yahya up to date.
Well, what a fascinating story indeed. That's where we're going to leave it. I think ending on a high just like that. Not John, but Yahya Jantjie, the Imam at the Emdeni Muslim Association. Appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. How fascinating is that story? I'll tell you what. So many people who've embraced the Islamic faith, they have an amazing story. Uh, Worldwide and in South Africa. And I don't know to what level do we fully document what happened to them, then what happens to them after that in terms of their own journey. But they are absolutely fascinating. We'll be picking up the issues around finance in a few minutes' time. But we spoke about we touched the issue of South Africa's issues with Russia. Well, there's been a development, and we'll talk on that in a moment.